What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the 10th installment of Wrestling Hypothesis Extra, the secondary show of the Wrestling Hypothesis podcast for your Wednesday, September 30th, 2020, the last day of September before we head into the October month. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm DABA, of course, and joining me this week, well, as he has been pretty consistently the past month or so on Extra, King Kenny. What's going on, man?
The dynamic duo is back.
Yes, we are back on YouTube. Yes. We missed out on last week's doing an episode last week, but it's all good. We're here for it this week. So, guys, you know the drill. To all the viewers listening at home, you guys know the drill. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on the series whenever we decide to drop sometime throughout the week. And if you haven't done so already, check out episode 37 from this past week, where we had a lot of great discussions for you guys, or really any of our older episodes in the archives, using any of the platforms that we are available on, as well as visiting our website, anchor.fm/wrestling-hypothesis. Okay, on to the news. The big story coming out of the Clash of Champions pay-per-view event from this past Sunday evening was, just like episode 37, about one man, Roman Reigns. We have praised this man ad nauseum already, just 1 month in on Reigns' radical character shift, turning heel and aligning himself with that dastardly Paul Heyman. We have yet to see how this will unfold in the long term, but we've got a pretty good indicator of what we'll be seeing Roman do and Heyman, and what he is really capable of moving forward via the main event of the show against one Jey Uso. Now, going into this, we weren't as interested in the match from the moment they announced this as we would be later on. We thought it would be a bit of a hurdle for Reigns and Heyman to really get over the storyline, even with the family dynamic in mind. I'm glad to say those concerns were kicked to the curb before we even got to the match itself, as the two of them cut some of the best promos of both their careers on the go-home edition of SmackDown heading into the Clash of Champions event, where Roman proclaiming himself as the tribal chief of the Samoan family, and that he is the one really taking care and bringing the bread home. And Jey responded by saying that all his life, people were asking him, which one are you? Referring to him and Jimmy Uso being twins. That line, I'm sure, resonated with all the twins out there who heard that, including our Richard and Ricardo. Shout out to them, by the way. And yeah, like that, once he wins the Universal title in their match, people will definitely be telling the two apart. And while that didn't necessarily happen on Sunday, nor was it really likely at all to happen, none of that took away from how fantastic this match ended up being. People complained about, now I did see a lot of people complaining about this, nitpicking it here and there, saying that Reigns was monologuing too much. There wasn't enough wrestling involved in the match. Like, really? Come on. People, I feel, are just so accustomed to the incredibly high standards that are set by the independent scene and AEW. All flash and very little substance. Not to say AEW doesn't have any of that. They have plenty of substance. But I will say, with the many occasions of your average AEW episode starting off or like leading into the first half of the show with an all-out tag team match with little psychology and just like going from one spot to the next, yeah, this was a welcome change. I would say so.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, it was, man. From the moment the bell rang, the air was different. When the match started, and every single minute of it was great. I loved it. The dialogue. See, here's something we don't get enough of in our wrestling matches. As the match progresses, right, the story, like, we got a promo within a wrestling match.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a minute. How many times does that actually happen? It never does. It really never does. And because there's lack of fans inside the arena, we really get to actually be in that match. It literally felt like I was in that match. So for me, man, this is easily one of the best matches we have ever seen all year. And it had nothing to do with, two of the greatest in-ring talent or anything, because it didn't feature that. It didn't feature two of the greatest in-ring talent. It just simply featured family. Point blank period. Family.
That's right.
And that was the story going into this match, man. And everything that they did, I gotta credit Vince and his team for this, man. And we've been on the record saying that, criticizing every single thing that they did. But this one, they got right on the money. I mean, no one expected. I didn't expect, this match to be this good. But I wanted to watch it obviously because of the promo they had cut, leading into the match on Friday night SmackDown to close out the week. But yo, this was gold, man. This was gold.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly thought that I was watching something like some sort of movie or something.
Right.
Like it was so great that,
Especially with the way things played out in the end
yeah,
and the
yeah,
post match.
exactly.
That was
Yep,
it was like taken
yep,
straight from your favorite
yeah.
movie scene, like
You know,
where it involved family. It was crazy.
it was, and I told Ricardo this, and I think I put it in our chat. I said this is a candidate for match of the year,
You
and I'm
did?
not joking when I said that. This is a candidate for match of the year, and it should, come in close because when it's all said and done, you will not like. There's no match quite like this one. You know, Possibly the next best candidate, right, for match of the year will probably look like something you've seen before. You know, Albeit it'll be great, but I doubt it'll have the same significance and the same dialogue that Roman Reigns and Jey Uso provided us on Sunday night. So yeah, I think it was great. It was fantastic. Dialogue was great. It was a much needed aspect of it because if you're gonna tell a story between these two, you need to feature that. You need to have that, and they did, man. They hit it out of the park.
Definitely, man, definitely. And I definitely agree with your point. I can't disagree with your point there about this being the match of the year candidate right now, the leading candidate for it. But because this match is incredible, and it didn't have
Yeah,
to be, and sure wasn't the flashy technical style wrestling match, the 5-star classic that we would expect in
yeah,
that sense. It didn't
yeah,
have to be though. You weren't gonna you couldn't expect that, or at least much in that aspect from Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and it didn't have to be the case.
Roman did something that I never thought anyone could do. Like,
Tell an amazing story.
the one thing we've always riddled Roman for was the fact that he can't tell, like he can't cut a decent promo. I mean, he can cut a decent promo, but he can't really, he's not consistent with it. This man went from not being able to cut or be consistent with cutting a decent promo to actually being one of the best they have.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to know why that is? Because of that man standing right next to him.
Yeah, that's right.
And for me, that is the biggest factor in the reason why this whole thing tied well together. Like I can't be any more like I haven't been this excited since I don't know how long, man. And I'm sitting here contemplating, oh shit, I'm actually gonna watch Friday Night SmackDown. I'm actually gonna watch Friday Night SmackDown for the first time in like 3 years.
Unfathomable, my guy. Especially since the move to
What?
Fox. It's unfathomable, man. I have
Yes.
not wanted to tune into
Like
anything SmackDown related since they moved to Fox, for sure.
right,
Because they didn't give
right,
me anything to
exactly,
really sink my teeth into. And
right,
dude, think about this. It's not even necessarily just this storyline with Roman. You also got
exactly,
Bailey and Sasha Banks lurking.
right.
You also got freaking
Alexa
what
Bliss,
else? Yeah, you
right?
got the Alexa Bliss Fiend, that aspect of it. And, well, I'm sure there's maybe one or two more I'm forgetting, but
Yeah,
that's a good amount for them at least. For WWE,
yes.
that's a great amount. Much
Hmm.
more than your average typical storylines on any Monday
Yeah,
Night Raw or SmackDown at any
agreed.
point of the year.
Man, it
Like
was
they'd be
great,
lucky to
man.
have anywhere near lucky to have one of these kind of storylines with such
I, I,
enthusiasm and
I, I,
intensity.
d- I do know the progression of this storyline, though, because obviously there's going to be a collision course between Roman and The Rock. So maybe we should probably just pose the question: Who is the tribal chief? Who do we believe to be the actual tribal chief? Is it The Rock? Is it Roman Reigns? We shall see. We shall
Yeah,
see.
Yeah, and hopefully, and like going back to what you said there, man, I hope The Rock really gets integrated and incorporated into the
Oh,
storyline.
no, 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 no. He has to now.
He
He
has
has to.
to.
Like
He has
if
to.
there's
Anything else would
any
be a
see,
disappointment.
The Rock actually commented on that storyline on Twitter. He said,
I know what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He said that I heard you two tore down the house last night. Like something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah.
Congrats and things like that. But The Rock has cachet to get in because he's family, man. And listen, Roman is claiming to be the tribal chief. Is he the real tribal chief?
Mm,
Are we conceding that notion to Roman, or are we going to find out who the real tribal chief is? You know,
right.
in Roman and The Rock, because a lot of people think The Rock is still the tribal chief. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Oh man.
Definitely interesting to see, man. That's one match that I would definitely, pay anything to see. You know,
Yeah, especially, and that was something even a little bit harder to swallow if this was just a few years ago with the
right?
Roman Reigns incarnation we were getting then.
Exactly. But he's a
Like
heel
Reigns and The
now.
Rock
Like
wasn't as
he's a
interesting now. Wasn't
right,
as interesting then. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right. But yo, listen, my thing is this: the promo work that Paul Heyman will present, you know, and coupled with the fact that Roman can hold his own on the mic now, plus The Rock, oh my God. I mean, come on.
Jeez. The
Like
possibilities are
that,
endless there.
that, yes, it's endless, man. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait for Vince to call The Rock and say, "Hey, Rocky, I got a story for you. I got something that will put asses in seats, literally."
Hmm.
But my thing is this: do you want to have this match without fans? Because that creates a whole new layer, to it now. Because we see the potential that this storyline is going, and
Hmm.
what it has, right? Do we like? I want fans to be in attendance, but I don't necessarily want to wait to have this match.
Right.
But we'll see. That's just the fan in me. That's just maybe on Sunday we can maybe have a further discussion on it. I would love to have a further discussion on that. The possibilities of that. Um, but
Sounds good to
definitely,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
But definitely, right now I'm just speaking as a fan.
Yeah.
I would want to be in attendance as a fan, but I don't want to wait
Right. Right. Right.
until the pandemic is over for me to see this match, because God knows how long, you know what I mean? So yeah,
Until
it's
things get back to
definitely
normal.
interesting.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Right. But so as you guys, as those who are listening now can see, me and Kenny here, nothing but absolute praise for this match.
Yes.
Definite match of the year candidates, even probably leading at the
Yeah,
moment. But
I
we'll see
agree.
how, yeah, and we'll see how this whole thing with Roman and Paul Heyman pans out. But speaking of Reigns and the Usos and Paul Heyman, so I read an article on Bleacher Report where we had the writer of the article fantasy book the idea of the four of them part of a heel super stable with Roman, with Paul Heyman, and the Jey and Jimmy Uso. And I thought about this one and thinking about how they can get to the point of Roman accepting the Usos to be on his side and a part of his tandem after what we saw at the pay-per-view event. And I was thinking about it, and the one way we can get to that point is through the Usos saying that if you can't beat them, join them.
Join them. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That is so true, man. And we kind of saw Jimmy Uso conceding that notion for Roman being the tribal chief, right?
Right. Yeah.
Even though I'm not sure he meant it, I think it just comes from a place that he wanted to protect his brother, which is admirable on his part,
Yeah.
obviously, because he threw in the towel. Um, but to me, man, this just further proves, the point of where, hey, listen, if you really want to make this a brand, the Samoan dynasty, I mean, let's face it, they're already a brand, right? But if you want to further solidify their legacy, because I think Roman said it best, the Usos are the best tag team of their generation. They are. The Hardys' time is gone. Edge and Christian and the Dudleys, after that. But the Usos and the New Day, you can say 1A, 1B, right? So So for me personally, I think the idea of a stable makes sense. It makes sense because the Usos have kind of plateaued, right? Like they've reached their ceiling as a tag team, right? There's really nowhere for them to go. They're a Hall of Fame caliber tag team. They've accomplished everything they've set out to do in that division.
You can
The
argue they've reached their
next,
ceiling a good few years ago,
yes,
honestly.
yes, they
Yeah.
have, right, right. But the last run that they had as tag team was left a lot to be desired, and
True.
that's just because they've had their best run. Now it's time for them to, level up.
Hmm.
Like Roman says, like I always say, there are levels to this. If you
Yeah.
want
You
to
must have
level
been
up,
so elated when Roman Reigns uttered that
oh,
phrase
are you
during
kidding
the
me?
match when he was
The man
monologuing
knows.
to do so.
The man
Oh
knows.
man.
See. It takes one to know one, man. Okay,
Hmm.
great minds think alike, and that's what I got from that. But needless to say, the Usos need to level up. Period.
Yep.
And if they
Absolutely.
want and if they want to keep their career relevant, you need to align yourself with a guy like Roman and Paul Heyman. And I think that's the natural order of progression that they need to follow in order to, you know, tie this thing together. The
Hmm.
Samoan dynasty. We've never quite had a team like this. In a while. I mean, you can argue that the Shield were that, but I think this has a potential to be even better than the Shield because of one man, Paul Heyman. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Like Paul
Yeah.
Heyman hyping up these guys, man. Come on, it's over. Like there's nothing to talk about, nothing. So for me, this is a no-brainer, man.
Right. Hopefully this will be the next destination for them. If not soon enough, then hopefully sometime before the year's out and heading on
Yes,
into 2021. We'll see what they have up their sleeve with this.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And to mention it quickly, they have paired the three of them up numerous times before. We've seen it, but they were all faces, and it was
Right,
just like it kind of felt
cringy.
forced.
Yes,
Cringy, yeah, exactly.
yes.
It didn't feel natural in a sense, even though they are all
Listen,
family.
they have Paul Heyman. All right,
Yeah, now they got Paul Heyman, and now
right.
they're all legit badasses.
Yep,
If yeah, well,
yep.
at least Uso's stock has
I'll tell you what.
risen up to this
Once,
point.
because we still don't know, how further along Jimmy's injury is. So I think it really depends on him
It
and
does, yeah.
how fast he can get back. But once they have him back, once the Usos are back, bro, the sky's the limit, man. Because like if you have them aligned with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman, and this is another thing that I like about Roman's development, it's the fact that Paul Heyman, I'm very certain he has creative say in what happens with Roman. And I think that changes a lot of things because if you can take over the creative aspect of the Usos and Roman, you know, you can turn this thing around. You can turn SmackDown that has been a dumpster fire in years. You can turn that shit around.
Yeah, I agree. And hey, you just mentioned it there. If Paul Heyman has had ended, if we found out that Paul Heyman indeed has creative say in this whole storyline, then there's a big reason right there why this has been a great thing to see so
Yeah.
far. Moving on here with some more news. John Cena appeared on Jimmy Fallon's The Tonight Show in the show's first time having a guest in a real life capacity rather than doing it through remote interviews. During the appearance, Cena stated that while he hasn't been all that active as an in-ring performer in the WWE, it is far from over, and it's not so just yet. So from those comments, we can expect hopefully to see him return to the ring at some point in the future. His last match with WWE was at WrestleMania earlier this year to Bray Wyatt, although that was a cinematic match rather than an actual wrestling bout. His last actual match in the ring was at January 2019 last year on Raw in a Fatal 4-Way. So almost 2 full years since we've seen John Cena wrestle in a wrestling ring. Cena's passion for wrestling is still there. It's just we can tell through his energy and his I guess his body language when it comes to talking about it in interviews over the past few years. It's just the growing Hollywood schedule that's the issue, which is continuing to build up now that he is being cast in bigger roles in upcoming blockbuster movies.
Mhm. Yep. Fast Nine, Suicide Squad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are huge franchises, man. That's no joke, man.
It's not a joke, man.
That
Cena's really getting up there in the Hollywood industry, and
yeah.
he's getting into these bigger roles, making a name for himself. That's really great for him. And as for what I see him possibly getting involved in once he comes back, it is not too obvious what WWE would plan to do for Cena once he returns. Maybe the most likely scenario is pitting him against Roman Reigns and giving us this match on a bigger stage that makes sense for those two, unlike last time at a B show event in 2017 when they were both, when they were both baby faces,
Mhm.
and nobody cared for it as much then.
Oh,
The
I know.
dynamic would.
Before
What was that?
before you go on, I actually no. You know what? Go on.
I'm
I'll
just,
chime in later.
all right. Just to add quickly, the dynamic would be drastically different for the better this time around, which is why it would be leagues better already than their first encounter together a few years ago.
Well, I'm not sure it'll be leagues better just because the dynamic they had last time, if you remember correctly, that promo still stands as the greatest promo we have ever seen on Monday Night Television, between two guys at least. Um, when Roman and Cena were in the ring, and they both had an epic battle with Kurt Angle in the background,
Yeah,
and Cena said, "I'm still here because you can't do your job, and I can do this part time better than you can do it full time." So that moment, it was a strong moment. Even though Roman did end up winning that match ultimately, um, it did lead, and Cena obviously endorsing him because that's the way they wanted it at that time. Cena was at the back end of his career, and they needed somebody to keep the hype train going.
that's
You
right.
know, um, and even though they didn't go about doing it the right way, and I do understand where you're coming from, that okay, well, this time around they can do it the right way because Paul is involved, and Roman's a heel now. That is going to be tough to top, just because that match itself was great. It was a great match, you know. And for what it is, like for what it's worth, I don't think replicating that will be easy, just because of the great match that it was and the great promos, consecutive they had leading up to that match. It's a tough act to follow.
So you
Even though
don't
Roman,
think it's
even though
so you
even though
don't think it's
Roman
necessarily a
was a
okay.
heel,
You go ahead, man.
even though Roman was a face, I still
Yeah.
think it'll be tough to replicate.
Well, so even with the circumstances we are dealing with now, with Cena returning after almost 2 years hiatus in the
Mhm.
wrestling ring,
Yeah.
that's number one, and two
Eh,
being that Roman's a heel and has Paul Heyman by his side.
See,
You still don't seem to have like good high hopes for this match
I do
topping
right, exactly.
the
See,
previous match. Okay,
and here's why. It's just it's not because of Roman. It's because of Cena.
right.
He's been away from wrestling for quite a while now. And I just don't think he's the same guy that he once was. And he'll tell you that too. You
Well,
know,
that's fair.
um,
Yeah.
so I think expecting Cena to put on a clinic, like he did their first match, it's kind of a stretch.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying he's in Undertaker shape. Let's not get that right. Like, Cena's probably in the best shape of his life. Um,
Yeah.
but this is wrestling. You can be in the best shape of your life and still can't wrestle a
Right.
match
Yeah.
because of the endurance and the creativity and the and the and the discipline it takes,
Right. Yeah.
for you to even put together a wrestling match.
Hmm.
Um,
That's why a
and
lot
and
of
and
that's why a lot of wrestlers say to in public that there are two types of cardio out there. You know, like there's the in-ring cardio and there's just like
yeah,
cardio in general. Like it's two completely
right,
different beasts to conquer.
exactly, yeah. And if you're telling me that Cena's been working out in the ring and having matches on the side, or training in the ring, uh, every week or twice or three times a week, while keeping that insane Hollywood schedule, maybe. But this isn't the same. This isn't the same guy we've seen. You know, like in his last program with the WWE, when he was in that match with what type of match was it called again? I forgot what the name was.
Well, with
With
Fiend at
Bray Wyatt.
WrestleMania,
Yeah, yeah.
it was, what was it? A Firefly Funhouse match, I think.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
it. Yeah.
a Firefly Funhouse match. It wasn't even a match, you know. It was like a moment, um, you know, an iconic moment at that. But it was a moment, you know, which didn't require him to do anything really.
Right.
You know, it
Yeah.
was just to take a Sister Abigail, and that was it, and that was that. So to me, you know, we really haven't seen what Cena is capable of doing in the ring, you know. Um, but I mean, obviously he can still go. I think he can, you know, it'd be blasphemous to say he can't go. But you know, relative to, you know, the first match he had with Roman, which was fantastic, by the way. If you haven't, I mean, from what I can remember, it was a great match. Um, I just can't see him being at that level still. You know, not wrestling consistently as he has in the past.
I think that's, yeah. I think to get with what you're saying, man. I think it's a fair criticism, critique, whatever you want to call it. I think, yeah, that's fair. I have no problem with it, honestly. Like, Will Cena is very unlikely, like you said earlier, that unless Cena's been training on the side for a wrestling return, he happens to have WWE ship off a wrestling ring in his backyard or garage, the same way they did for Edge to prepare him for his return to the ring. Then it's not really like, it's very, very doubtful that Cena is going to be in the same, is going to shake off a good amount of that ring rust. That's, you know, that just so naturally happens when you, and builds up over time when you're not training for in ring. So I don't know, man. We'll see how they we'll see how they go forward with this and what they have planned for Cena once he returns.
Hey, if there's any consolation, the promo work will be better.
Oh yeah.
You know, the
Uh-huh.
promo work would definitely, like, it'll get you hyped up for the match. You will want to see it, but when you see it,
Yeah.
don't and it doesn't live up to, you know, quite the, you know, the hype that it's set. Don't be disappointed, and that's all I'm saying. You know, because clearly one of those two guys isn't the same, and that's not Roman, because Roman's gotten way better. I just think it's Cena, and you know, Roman this time has to carry the match. So and look, I do want to see it. Not that I don't, I do, absolutely. But let's just pump the brakes a little bit on that one, just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, all I'm saying is that probably is the most likely destination for
Right.
Cena, whatever they have planned for him once he returns.
It'll
Like,
make
who
sense,
else?
man. It'll make
It will
sense.
make sense, and unless they want to
and
throw him to fucking a mid Carter again, like Elias,
right,
which it's a waste of time. You're not going
it
to do
is.
that to John Cena.
Right, it is. You know, and you don't bring Cena back, you know, just to do that, especially at like a big pay-per-view or anything like that. Like, you want him to be in a marquee match. Even though he's gonna lose, you know, the idea of him getting number 17 is still there. You know, like it's still, there's still a lot of intrigue there. You know, and lots of reasons why you want to have this match, with Cena included in it. Just because it's a chase for title number 17. You know, and people, you know, like it or not, if Cena's involved in a world championship match, you will see it, you will watch it, because there is that chance that he walks out champion, and in that case surpasses Ric Flair's record. So from that standpoint alone, absolutely, it makes sense. But I just don't want people to get disappointed if the match doesn't live up to the expectations that the promo lived up to. You know what I mean? Because this is not the same guy that you guys knew. This is not big match John. Well, maybe it is, but is you know, talent as dissipated to some level, to some degree.
Yeah, the promos will definitely be elevated, especially from Roman's end. But yeah, the match quality is going to be, it's questionable what they got going on and what they can show us.
Yeah, it really is, until we can actually see Cena in a ring, you know, fighting a match. Like, if he can still put together a good match like he's capable of doing,
Right.
2 or 3 years ago, then okay, let's talk. you know.
I feel
But
like with WWE's mindset heading into doing this match is just saving it for the pay-per-view, Cena's
yeah,
wrestling return. So that's I think that's where the trouble is. Unless they want to shake off any potential ring rust that Cena may
hmm
have built up for
right.
himself over the past
But
years, and just
and you know what?
throwing him a bone or two.
And you know what? That's the thing. You know, do you wanna risk him out
Risk
there?
injury.
With
Right.
the
Yeah.
injury. He's a big Hollywood star now. Do you want to risk that?
That is a big concern.
Right. And you don't really see that. It's like The Rock coming back and fighting on SmackDown, Friday Night SmackDown. That's never gonna happen. Like that's what? Even though The Rock is rusty, and anyone can tell you that he is, like, he looks at the best shape of his life too. But even though The Rock is rusty in the ring, like would you book him for a Friday night show just to shake off some ring rust? No. Like, his only match will be at a pay-per-view, and that's what this is. And I honestly wish that we have a way of knowing whether a star will get injured or not, you know or we have advanced medicine of where we can heal somebody's injury instantly, if that were to happen. But this isn't the case. So
Yeah.
shaking off the ring rust will probably have to just happen naturally, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah. And we'll leave it at that for today. Thanks for checking out our 10th edition. Yes, 10th edition already, man, of Wrestling Hypothesis Extra. Big thank you to the King for joining me. Follow us on Facebook or Instagram for any news updates we post on there, as well as any updates on our weekly show and the status of that, when you guys will be expecting to see that. So, as always, we will be back. Episode 38 this upcoming Sunday as of right now. So until then, take care, guys. Have a good one.
Later. Peace.